Hello, this is exciting. Welcome to my first mid-year book freakout tag. This tag I think has existed for many years on BookTube, and I believe the creator of the tag, I will put them in the description box, but I think the tag has just gone on so long that it's hard to like figure out who exactly started it, when and where, or whatever. But I think Earl Grey and Books and Chani are the ones who started it. So I'm going to link their channels down in the description box below. And the questions themselves, I just picked up from everyone else who did the tag. So hopefully they are the original questions. And I think they are from what I've seen over the years in BookTube. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question, and I'm looking down here because I have my questions and notes here. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2024. If you know me, you know what my answer is going to be, and that is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I know I still haven't done my full standalone video review for this, but please just read this book. It's so good. He's just so incredibly talented at creating a story, but doing it in a way that really breaks a lot of storytelling conventions, or if not breaking them, but like playing with them in such an interesting way. And it's just, it's an onion with layers and layers. And I loved the story. I was just incredibly impressed and astounded by the storytelling choices that he made in this. And I just, honestly, I read this at the end of May, I think the end of May, and I kind of already want to reread it and like highlight and tab and stuff already. So like this, nothing else is living up to this book, nothing. So I'm going to be shocked if anything passes this when I do my end of the year wrap up. But yeah, so far, The Spear Cuts Through Water, top 5 favorite books of all time now. Nothing is topping this so far. We'll see if anything even reaches the same heights of the way I felt as I was reading this, and the absolute, like, I have never really understood the book slump, the book depression feeling when you finish a book, because I'm always reading something. But I finished this and I was like, oh, what now? So yeah, The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez is the best book of 2024 so far. I do have runners-up. I do. Runners-up. First runner-up, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Absolutely fantastic character work, great horror story. Super excited to get to the second novel soon. What's next? The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I love Robert Jackson Bennett. I think he's a great storyteller. He comes up with incredibly interesting fantasy worlds. So I loved this one. Holmes and Watson-ish mystery taking place in a super interesting, weird, gory, fantastic, kaiju-esque fantasy world. So super excited. Super excited for what? Super excited that this came out this year, that I enjoyed it, and that book 2 is hopefully coming out next year. Next, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. So this might be a surprise because 95% of what I read is sci-fi fantasy. So I was just kind of astounded by this. I'm going to talk more about it because it's going to come up in a later question in this series. And These Burning Stars by Bethany Jacobs. This is such a slept-on sci-fi book that came out this year. Or did it come out this year? This year or last year? Oh, it came out last year, but I read it early this year. This is slept on. This is an amazing space opera with incredible character work. I need people to read this. I do. If you like sci-fi, if you like space operas, if you like interesting character work and interesting character dynamics and interesting plot, pick it up. It's so good. Pick it up. So those are my best books of 2024 so far. I have a solid top 5. We'll see. I'm excited to see how that changes as the year goes on because there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out this year. So what is the best sequel you've read in 2024? This is a little harder, but essentially what I landed on was I read the Hidden Legacy series by Ilona Andrews very early on this year. Like I started book 1 in late December and then I finished the rest of the series in January. And essentially it is a first trilogy with one sister of this family and a second trilogy with the next sister of the family. So I'm considering the second trilogy as the sequel as a whole. Hidden Legacy is great. Urban fantasy, paranormal romance. Ilona Andrews, it just hits all the right, like, urban fantasy, paranormal romance beats that I love. And I really think that the second trilogy, the first trilogy's sister is Nevada Baylor, the second trilogy is Catalina Baylor. I think Catalina's trilogy was way more of a step up from Nevada's. Nevada's was great, but Catalina's was just, I enjoyed it so much more. I think it improved on the world, on the storytelling, on the romance so much more than the first trilogy. So that is my pick for best sequel that I've read this year. Hidden Legacy series, part 2, second half, by Ilona Andrews. And I'm hoping to read more Ilona Andrews this year. I'm eyeing the Clean Sweep series, but also have my eye on the Kate Daniels new series that's coming out right now, The Wilmington Years. So we'll see where we go, but Ilona Andrews is just kind of becoming a comfort urban fantasy paranormal romance read for me. So yeah, so that was question number 2. The next question, new release you haven't read yet but want to. This is easy. You Like It Darker by Stephen King. I am a big King fan. I was reading him way too young, as I'm sure many of us who are King fans probably have the same origin story, reading way too much Stephen King way too young. I've read maybe about 85% of his oeuvre. You know, most of the ones I haven't read are the more modern stuff. Like, I just have no interest in the Mr. Mercedes series, no interest in Holly and stuff like that. But You Like It Darker, I am so excited because it sounds like this is getting back to, you know, the short stories, that collections that in the past that I've really loved. So super excited for this. Really want to get to this year. I just have to be in a short story mood, or in a horror mood, or in a King mood, which could be at any point. I'm a mood-driven reader. I'm just so I will pick it up at some point. I really want to read it soon, because it's been a while since I've read a really satisfying Stephen King, and I'm really hoping this hits the spot. Okay, next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I track new releases pretty closely. I'm interested in a lot of stuff, but to say most anticipated, I have 2. The first is The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey. I freaking love The Expanse. I love the books. I love the TV show. This bright pink right here, that is a 10th anniversary edition of the first book. I need to pick up the 10th anniversary editions of the next 2 books in the series, but that's how I'm going to be collecting them, because I read them all on audio originally, and I'm collecting the physical as they come out with these 10th anniversary editions. But yeah, I love The Expanse, so I'm super excited that James S.A. Corey are back together writing something new. The cover looks very Expanse-ish, and it is a sci-fi series, so I'm not expecting The Expanse again, but I am just so super excited. The second anticipated release is, I just showed you these Burning Stars. Apparently book 2 in the Kingdom trilogy, On Vicious Worlds, is supposedly coming out in October. It has a date, no cover yet, as you can see, but there is a publishing date. I want it, I need it, I need it. I am so excited for it. So those are my 2, the James S.A. Corey and the new Bethany Jacobs. That's my top 2. Will read this year when they come out. Fingers crossed the Bethany Jacobs actually comes out, because being it's already almost July and it's supposedly coming out in October and there's no cover yet, I have a feeling it's going to be pushed back. I hope it doesn't, but you know, fingers crossed, fingers, toes, everything crossed. So we'll see how it goes. All right, next is biggest disappointment of the year. Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. I love this orange so much. Like, this orange is just speaking to me. I have grown to really love speculative murder mysteries lately, and I thought this was totally going to be up my alley. I had been anticipating it, bought it. It was a disappointment. Mainly because of the narrative choice that was made, and that narrative choice really affected how the story had to be told, and that was just personally incredibly frustrating for me, and I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters because of that narrative choice. Didn't feel connected to the story, had no emotional connection to anything going on. The speculative elements, the dystopian elements, the sci-fi elements were interesting, but again, I had no character connections, and that really just kept me so separate from the story as a whole, and it was just incredibly disappointing. I think I gave it 3 stars, maybe 2. Yeah, I think I'm landing. I'm probably gonna lower, if it was 3, I'm gonna lower it to a 2. It's so disappointing because I really thought I would enjoy this. So yeah, most disappointing of 2024 so far. Now, rounding out top 5 other disappointments, I have 4 more. None of them I own, thankfully. First is The Marble Queen by Anna Kopp. I was super excited about this graphic novel, sapphic romantic fantasy. I reviewed it in one of my first videos on the channel, and it was just highly disappointing. The story was disjointed, the character work wasn't great, the art itself felt very sketchy, very amateur, unfinished, so that was highly disappointing. Next disappointment, Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Usually I get a lot of enjoyment out of John Scalzi, but Starter Villain was just, I could see where he was going with the story and with the humor, but it just didn't land. It was supposed to be like a send-up of James Bond villains, and the story, it was so flat, like nothing, there's no character arc. It was literally just, this is a story that's happening, and there you go. So highly disappointed. The In-Depth series by J.D. Robb. I went on a journey with these books. I read 4 of the series before I ended up DNFing the series as a whole. These books started in the 90s, and that shows, and I thought, because it's so long running and a lot of booktubers that I follow really enjoy the series, so I thought, you know, I would give it a good chance. I thought it was something that I could love, and no, that's not the case. There's so many elements about the books that I just couldn't deal with, and I gave up on it. Maybe I might, you know, jump in and see where like book 45 is or something, just out of curiosity. But yeah, that was a disappointment for me, because I really thought I was in for a long-running series that could be like a super easy read series for me. You know, when I'm in a book slump and I just need something easy to pick up, I thought that could be the one, but no. And finally, the last disappointment was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin by Kevin Eastman. I expected a pretty neat story based on this. Looks like Michelangelo is the last Ronin, meaning like all the other turtles in Splinter are dead. This ended up being a weird cyberbunky dystopian story, and Michelangelo is trying to get revenge for the death of his brothers and Splinter. But it was all over the place. It made no sense. The artwork was terrible. The only artwork that worked was these really interesting pages where it's kind of flashing back. And that was interesting. That was storytelling. That was moody. Like, the art was doing a lot there. The rest of the artwork sucked. If I can find screenshots, hopefully I put them up as I was talking about it. But yeah, I've had this like saved on Hoopla for about a year or two, because, you know, I've always been like, okay, that looks interesting. I've never been into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. I watched them when I was a kid, but never read the comics. So I thought, okay, this looks like a good standalone series in a trade that I could, you know, read as a one-shot and see, you know, how it goes. No. Very disappointing. Disappointing because I don't really think that the Turtles are for me. I know this is like a different offshoot kind of story. It's not really representative of the Turtles, but also like, I don't know that I care enough to continually read comics about Ninja Turtles. So I'm gonna leave it as a relic of my childhood. So yeah. So yeah, top 5 most disappointing books of 2024 so far. I hope this list doesn't increase massively by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. Next is biggest surprise of 2024, and this is why I saved talking about Demon Copperhead. I am not a literature person. I do not really read character study, character study literature books. You know, books where it's Demon Copperhead, a novel, to make it seem like it's super highbrow literature. That's not my deal. But this won the Pulitzer. I've been seeing people talk about it. I fell for this bright cover compared to the, you know, darker tan and gray one. It's fucking incredible. It really is just a very intricate character study of this character, Demon Copperhead, and it is inspired by David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, which I have not read, and I don't think that was to my detriment. I still enjoyed the story as a whole. I'm sure if I had read David Copperfield before, there are probably like themes, maybe, you know, little moments that I missed that, you know, called back to David Copperfield, but I don't think I missed anything of the actual story, the themes, the character work, not having read David Copperfield. Now, the reason that I picked this up, was convinced to pick it up and give it a try, is because of the first line, and I want to read it to you because this book is a character study of this character Demon, and his voice is so strong and it's so interesting, and you know, you follow him through the ups and downs, the highs and lows of his life as he lives his life. But this first line, really, I was reading this at the bookstore. I opened up, read the first line, I was like, okay, shit, okay, I'm buying it. So it goes, chapter 1, line 1. First, I got myself born. A decent crowd was on hand to watch, and they've always given me that much. The worst of the job was up to me, my mother being, let's just say, out of it. First, I got myself born. That's a heck of a first line to really, it spoke so much to me. It said so much to me, and I was like, okay, that's what we're working with here. Okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And I'm glad I did. I was super immersed. It was a really great character study, traumatic, hopeful, just all of the above. I really enjoyed it. I can see why maybe people did not enjoy it as much, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. So yeah, big surprise for me this year because I just don't do literary fiction. Another big surprise was The Spear Cuts Through Water. I just surprised at how much I loved it. I can't stop talking about it. I'm gonna stop talking about it, but yeah, this was a surprise. I had to put that in there. I'm sorry. Okay. No, I can't promise that I'll stop talking about The Spear Cuts Through Water. I'm sorry. All right, next is favorite new author, and that is either a debut author or new to you author, Bethany Jacobs. I am so intrigued by where she's going with this, and her writing was really great. Her character work, her world building, everything was really great. So super excited. I really hope that book 2 is just as good and really cements that she is becoming one of my new favorite authors. Yeah, it's great. I would say Simon Jimenez, but I read The Vanished Birds last year and I knew I already liked him, and then Spear Cuts Through Water really cemented it. I would say Simon Jimenez, yes, I'm bringing it back up. Simon Jimenez in terms of becoming a brand new favorite auto-buy, auto-read, whatever this man puts out, I am picking up next. No questions asked, buying it day one. Spear Cuts Through Water did that for me. But new favorite author, Bethany Jacobs for sure. Book that made you cry is the next question, and this rarely happens, but I would say for this one for sure, Drowned City, Hurricane Katrina by Dan Brown. This is a nonfiction graphic novel, essentially a reporter's account, a history of what happened in Katrina, but it is very spare. It is very straightforward. There is no overdoing, there's no histrionics, there's no massive like emotional manipulation. The man is simply telling you what happened over the course of the days that Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And, you know, it's already a heavy topic, but the way there was a specific panel I remember seeing this panel, and it hit me so hard. I had to put my iPad down and just like, I cried a little. It had to do with children. Children who have to step up to help and be adults in times of crisis will always get me. And that, I just remember reading that panel and just putting my iPad down for a moment because it was too much. Not to say that it is triggering or anything like that. Like I said, is simple restating of facts of things that were going on when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and in the aftermath. So it's a great graphic novel. If you don't know much about the effect that Hurricane Katrina had in New Orleans, it's great to read. If you did know about it, if you lived through it, or not through it in New Orleans and the surrounding areas, but if you were in America when Hurricane Katrina hit and you remember the news and you remember the aftermath and everything, it's still great because it really digs into what was happening to people on the ground there, and also sort of a bit more of a bigger picture of why everything failed the people of New Orleans so hard. So really recommend this if you really just want a really great nonfiction, super simple, interesting picture of what happened during Hurricane Katrina, for sure. On the flip side, books that make you happy. The Yakuza's Bias Volume 1 and 2. This is a silly manga series that I really loved. I'm smiling because just thinking about it makes me like chuckle. This is about a hard Yakuza enforcer who ends up seeing a K-pop group and absolutely becomes a K-pop stan and finds a bias who is your favorite member, and he goes like absolute cuckoo K-pop crazy for this group and his bias. I've reviewed this before. I said I really enjoyed this because it really feels like the mangaka, the author, is a K-pop fan and understands K-pop fans, and all of the fun being poked at K-pop fandom through the series, it feels like it's coming from a place of, I know you, it's not mockery, which I really felt while reading this, and I really appreciated that. So yeah, Yakuza's Bias, it just makes me happy. It's so silly. I really loved it. Okay, next is favorite book to film adaptation that you've seen this year. Haven't been watching much at all recently, not TV, not movies. So I'm gonna say this, it's silly, but Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it's literally my second favorite film of all time. I have literally watched it probably hundreds of times. I put it on in the background when I need something in the background and I can't decide what to watch. I put it on when I'm looking through Netflix for 30 minutes and can't decide what to watch and decide, oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna put Winter Soldier back on. So I think it's a fantastic adaptation of the Winter Soldier story arc in Marvel Comics. I think it's probably the best Marvel movie. Yes, I will fight about that. It is the best Marvel movie. And I just think it's a perfect movie. For me, it's a perfect movie. So that is my answer. Next question is fun. It is the most beautiful book that you bought or received this year. And I already have my answer. It was super easy. That is A Magical Girl Retires by Park Seo-yeon. This cover alone is great. It tells you everything you need to know. It is a millennial magical girl ennui story, translated from Korean. But I picked this up at the bookstore because I wanted to read a chapter or two, see how I felt and see if I would buy it. I picked it up and I was like, oh, that looks fantastic. Oh, that's beautiful. That's really cool. Oh, holy shit. The hardcover. Like, I opened that and I was like, oh no, yeah, I'm buying this. The back has that. And then even on the inside, the chapters each have art on them. So no question, favorite beautiful book that I've bought this year. I do have runners up. The first runner up is A Fate Inked in Blood. Haven't read it yet, but I fell in love with these sprayed edges or metallic edges. So yeah, cover metallic edges. And then the other one also bought just because it's pretty, Five Broken Blades by Mai Corland and those sprayed edges. So I'm a sucker for pretty stuff, I'll admit it. So yeah, pretty books. How can you resist? Okay, last question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Need is very hard for me because, like I said, I am a mood reader. So obviously my first response is ARCs, any advanced reader copies that I have. So the only e-arc I have still outstanding on NetGalley right now is Countess by Susan Palumbo. I read Skin Thief last year thanks to Neon Hemlock, who sent me a review copy. Freaking loved it. Really loved Skin Thief. Just one of my top reads of last year. Susan Palumbo has some really interesting ideas and her writing is fantastic. So I'm super excited about reading Countess. And then speaking of Neon Hemlock, I have a project in mind where I'm going to read a bunch of Neon Hemlock novellas and review them because I want to push Neon Hemlock out there. They're doing some really interesting stuff in the speculative LGBTQI diversity BIPOC space, novella space. So all these Neon Hemlock books, and I have a few ebooks too. And then lastly, I am making my way through the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I am currently in the middle of Words of Radiance, which is book 2. I'm hoping, these are chunky, but I'm hoping that I will be finished with all 4 books before the release of the book 5 in December, and then I can join in on all of the release fun and anticipation when December comes around and book 5 comes out. So that is that. Hopefully this video is not terribly long. I tried to keep it short and sweet. And you know, she's the star. She's the star of my year so far. I implore you to read this book if you haven't already. And if you have, I implore you to also read The Vanished Birds if you haven't already. I love this book. I love it so much. I want everybody to read it. That if you take anything away from this video, read Simon Jimenez. He's just doing some amazing work in the SFF space. Vanished Birds is sci-fi, Spear Cuts to Water is fantasy. Please read it. Please read them. Make me happy. Let me know if you read them. I want to gush about it. I love these so much. Yeah. Books make me happy. I hope they make you happy too. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about any of the books that I talked about here. Let me know if you have some good answers. What is your favorite book of 2024 so far? I want to get some more reads on my TBR because, you know, it's bad enough that I have 200 unread physical books and hundreds more ebooks that I've collected over the last 10-15 years on my Kindle. I always want more books to read. Always. Don't we all? Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Bye.